Welcome back to episode 36 of Your List Sucks. We've survived this long, pretty much with the same panelist every episode because some people don't like to throw their hat in the ring. We have probably the meanest panel that's been assembled on call about film taste. They're not really mean people. They don't say like harsh jokes and defend it on Twitter, but they do have very strong opinions, and they will gladly let you know when you're wrong. First on the show, Paul. Paul is back. He's actually off on a Wednesday. Thank you. I had to kick Brooklyn out of his spot for you, but I did that.
I feel kind of bad now.
Yeah, it's okay. He has two personalities. He'll show up in the chat as who's that other guy? Kenneth Lee. So yeah,
he's already here.
Oh, you're here. Congrats. So do you think best acting performances of the decade? That's a pretty intense topic because there's been a lot of good movies. Was this hard to narrow down your list, and do you think you will have the worst list?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, like I could pick 100 different roles and credibly argue for them being on this list. I'm excited to talk about some stuff that's a little different, I think, and I figured some people would cover some things that I would have otherwise said. But I'm super excited. I mean, acting performances kind of make movies sometimes. And, this is a way to sometimes reward maybe the movie themselves might not be amazing. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I think like this is where we reward actors that do all kinds of different performances. I think it'll be fun.
Paul also kept a tradition alive, sending me his list and changing it a day before the show. So
I changed it 10 minutes after I sent it to you. So
well, true, but he did. At least he changed it, and he was a little nicer this time. He at least gave me at least 7 to 8 that I've actually seen and one available. So I appreciated that. Next, normally producing the show, but Koho, you get 2 a month. You decided this is your one. Why this one? And how many movies from like before 2016 are on your list?
I'm gonna go ahead and let Glasses Boy over here explain why I needed to be on this episode. I'm excited to be here. I suggested this topic when we needed a filler, and so I kind of felt like I wanted to be on it then. Plus, I wasn't going to be on Best of 2019 because I shared my list too much, so I was going to do the one instead. But yeah, this will be fun. And yes, I have the over on Cody eye rolls as well, JTH.
Yes, you definitely did get punished for sharing your list too much. I'm really excited after seeing everybody's list. I kind of want to do this for like the 2000 to 2009 to kind of see what people would pick for those after movies have aged a little bit. But next, the masshole himself, he is going to cause shockwaves. He's going to make Koho go, I don't know what that movie is, but cool. Do you think you have the correct list, or do you think you have the most pretentious list?
I mean, I don't know how pretentious my list is. It's a little pretentious, I'll acknowledge. I took a lot of work on this. I have a side list that I came up with of 77 performances that was under consideration. So it took me like 4 hours to do it. This is a brutally hard list to do because it's just like there's so many good performances and like the margins between them is so small. It's just like personal taste at some point. And then you're like, I really like this actor, but is that the best performance of them? It's going to be fun.
Fair. And the if before 36 episodes, if Kirk was out of the gate first, this could possibly have been his show. He's probably the most opinionated besides myself. Kirk, you're on the show. Do you think? I don't know if you've ever won an episode. I think you might have, but
I think I tied for a win once.
Okay, fair enough. Well, time's fair. Do you think that you'll do better this time or worse than you did last time you won?
I mean, this is one of those things where it's hard to get wrong. I mean, there's so many good performances, and I don't think I put anything on here that's ridiculous. I mean, I had my short list and I narrowed it down, and like Lucas said, I mean, a lot of it did come down to personal preference, just because there's no other way to narrow it down. I had to go to the ones I liked the most. But yeah, I think I got a solid list. I think I got a good chance to take it tonight.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. We're going to actually start with Mr. Paul Oyama himself, Primetime. Tell us your 10 through 8.
So for number 10, I wanted to give a little different type of performance, a little bit of shine. I I went with an absurdist masterwork. It's Andy Samberg in Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping. He plays the character Connor for real. I just think this is a brilliant comedic performance, and comedic performances are a little undervalued, I think, in these sort of discussions. But I think the way he commits to this character and how ridiculous it is incredible. And it's just one of the funniest performances I can remember in like a long, long time. It's an amazing movie, but yeah, I think Andy Samberg in this is really great. My number 9.
Okay.
My number 9 is Ethan Hawke. It's Reverend Greg Toller in First Reformed. This is a brilliant, brilliant movie. I think this is maybe my favorite Ethan Hawke performance. He just holds so much inside of him. And I love his monologues when he's writing in his journal. And just the way he captures this guy who's having such conflict with his faith, I think is amazing. And then my number 8, I did a switcheroo at the last moment. My number 8 is going to be Laurie Metcalf in Lady Bird. One of the most warm and humane performances I've seen in a long, long time. I've said this on a show before, but she really does remind me of my own mother, and I think that's part of the reason this connects for me a lot. The way that she's just doing the dishes without even looking at her daughter is just one of the most heartbreaking and real things. And when she's driving to the airport and driving around Sacramento, that stuff just is heartbreaking. I think she's incredible. But yeah, love those 3.
Okay, well, future, remember, list them, then go back to them, but I get what you're doing. First, your 10, Andy Samberg. This is a little bit of a shock for me, like for you, because this is always the Paul thing. Paul has his very pretentious picks, and then he throws out these ones. He's like, wow, they're good movies. I like them, blah, blah, blah. Bring on High School Musical. I actually really like this movie a lot. I honestly do not like Andy Samberg. I find him very annoying in like his acting performances. Like his Lonely Island stuff, I think that stuff's funny, but like his overall acting, I don't find that funny. But this movie is one that took me by surprise, and I really did enjoy it. Again, you don't get crap for your 10 spot on the show, so well done sneaking that one at the bottom because sure, why not? It's your 10. Your 9, I saw this movie last night. This movie is character. Like, this movie is all him. Basically, the rest of the movie is like, I know it all centers around him. I don't like the overall movie, but his performance is very hard to not, like, be mesmerized by. I think it's literally one of the best acting performances. I'm really surprised. Was he nominated for this performance?
Nope.
Okay,
but you know who won.
So that's a little shocking because after watching that, I was like, looking back on the previous year, it's literally one of the standouts. But again, this is about performances. I think you picked one of the best performances of the 2010s. And then your 8, I've already said it before, Aunt Jackie from Roseanne does a fine job in this role. She's as loving and caring in that show as she is in this movie. It's fine. She's just she's like not as spazzy, as I would say. So that's fine. I think she's okay. I think everybody going crazy over her was a little nuts, but that's just my opinion. But that's the whole show. No one else can say anything. So I love when you put Lady Bird like right in that spot so I can like throw jabs and no one can say a word. We're going to go to Koho. So let's start with Emma Stone and keep it going.
My number 10 is Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. My number 9 is Edward Norton in Birdman. And my 8 is Emma Stone in La La Land. We'll wrap it all back up. Andy Sandler, Uncut Gems. I put him at 10 because I haven't exposed myself enough to Uncut Gems, but that performance left me kind of shook. It was something very different from Adam Sandler. He leans into the Adam Sandler tropes in the right ways, and like just the scene between him and Kevin Garnett towards the end, I won't spoil it, is just like where you sit there and you're just screaming no at him, and it's just like he's great. I think he does a really good job in this role. Edward Norton in Birdman, I think he's the best performance in the movie. He kind of plays a hyper-realistic version of himself, and he does it really well. Just when he's trying to direct Michael Keaton, who's trying to direct him, I think that's a great sequence that kind of perfectly sort of encapsulates the persona and the like mystique that's kind of growing around Edward Norton, and he just kind of owns it. And Emma Stone in La La Land, I know everyone's thoughts on this movie. Emma Stone, I think, is great. She captures that dreamer role really well, and you just are rooting for her the entire movie, and you feel for her. And I honestly connected to Emma Stone throughout the entire movie, and I just wanted her to succeed. I've said enough about La La Land. It's my favorite movie. So
Okay, Uncut Gems. It was my one from last year. I absolutely love this movie. I think it's again, that story connected a little bit closer to me because I knew exactly the outcome of that playoff game. I knew even though the tensions were high, I knew what was coming, and it still had me enthralled. So, and I mean, Adam Sandler, of the movies he did in the 2010s, wasn't great. Glad he finished on top. Because there. Oh, shut up, Paul. You're dramatic.
Not a fan of the cobbler, I see.
Not really. Your number 9, peek behind the curtain. This actually previously was Emma Stone in Birdman. So you switched it last minute on me, which is fine. I've seen the movie, so it's fine. I think Edward Norton is the correct choice. I think Michael Keaton would be the second choice, and then Emma Stone would probably be the third choice for me, or maybe behind Zach Galifianakis. But I find this role really good. I just rewatched it this year because I watched it during Oscar season. I didn't ever go back to it, so I watched it. And his performance, I think Edward Norton's just kind of playing himself. Like in Hollywood, he's kind of a douche. So I think he was perfect for this. The stories that I hear and everything about him, it seems like he was just like that kind of guy. So it's a fantastic. It's a good choice. 9, it's no problem. And your 8 is La La Land. I've said it before and said it again. I think she's super weak in this movie. Yeah, that's true. I find her weak in this movie. I don't think she can sing that well. I think. I believe their chemistry because they've worked together for so long. But at the end of the day, I think Gosling's better in this movie. Obviously, I think what's that singer's name that's in this movie? Yeah,
John Legend.
John Legend's better in this role than Emma Stone for me. So that's fair. I don't think she deserved the Oscar at all.
Wow.
But that's my opinion on the movie. You're shocked. This is the 18th time you brought on this movie. I don't know why you're shocked. I don't like it. Okay, so we are going to Lucas. 10, 9, 8. So mention one at a time as the actor, and then go back to him.
So my number 10 is Tom Hardy in Locke. My number 9 is Adam Driver in Marriage Story.
Yikes.
And my number 8 is Philip Seymour Hoffman in The Master.
Yikes.
Okay, Lucas, you don't get to talk right now. We'll come back to you in a second. That's fair.
This is my favorite kind of Lucas. He just gets
so that means, at least the group is so far with you because they yiked your pick. No one else yikes theirs. Kirk, tell them why everybody's wrong. Tell us your 10, 9, 8.
All right. My number 10 is Trevante Rhodes from Moonlight. My number 9 is Haley Steinfeld in True Grit. And my number 8 is Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse.
Okay.
All right. My number 10, Trevante Rhodes. I think this is one of the most overlooked and just underrated performances of the decade. I know Mahershala Ali got all of the attention for Moonlight. This was the performance of that movie that really sucked me in. He anchors that movie. He plays the older version of Sharon, and he really does a great job of internalizing what the first 2 versions of the character go through. And he creates just this really amazing character, something really unique that you don't see too much. He just has all that, you see that baggage on him. And he does such a great job of playing that. And also for me personally, what I connected to in that movie more than anything else was his interactions as an adult with his mother. So for me personally, that really hit home. So I want to put that on my list at 10 just because I wanted to be talked about because, like I said, that performance deserves to be talked about a lot more. Number 9, Haley Steinfeld, True Grit. I think she did an amazing job. I think this wasn't her first role. I know it was very early for her, and she does a great job. Usually, when you put a kid in a role like this, they just play an adult. They just play act like they're a grown up, and she does a really good job of being a kid in a situation where they have to act like a grown up, but still having that vulnerability and, holding her own against the adults, but still being a child. That's really hard to do. And again, for this movie, her performance, I walked away thinking about. So really enjoyed that. And then number 8, Willem Dafoe. This movie, I could have went with, I held myself to one actor or one performance per movie. They both did great in this, but Dafoe is so strong. And the thing about his character is it's almost like just a stereotype. Like when he first comes on, you're like, oh, he's just playing like the salty sea dog, and like even like the accent, the voice, and everything. But he is just so strong in the entire movie. I mean, he's going, all thrusters firing the entire time. That one scene where he does that like 5-minute monologue, he just screaming, the camera's right in his face. That movie's just two characters, and it's going to live and die by them, and he carries that movie. He's so good, and so I really love that performance too.
Okay. The correct Best Picture winner from that year, Moonlight, correct choice. I actually really like that. There's a lot of people that you could have picked from that one. I absolutely love this movie. I think he's a fantastic performance. I'm glad somebody mentioned Moonlight on their list because I think it's literally one of the best films of the decade. I understand maybe why not, because they don't, not like everybody gets as much screen time. There's a lot of broken up in there, but I think it's a great choice. 9, not the Haley Steinfeld performance I would have picked. If I was picking one, I'd probably pick Edge of 17 in my eyes. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Was that the one she wrote her own song, or was that
That's two.
No, that's two.
Okay, that's the better one.
Buddy,
No.
she's stuck in the dark, but you're her flashlight. Go ahead.
Please mute him.
I
would-
hope that's a 5-point Ronan question for you.
Shut your mouth. Okay. I would have picked Edge of 17 for her performance, but I can't argue that True Grit she's amazing in. I think it's to show the range that she did at such a young age. It's great. Bar, shut up. And the next one, I have made a vow that I will no longer say this movie sucks. This is the most un-Cody movie that I've ever watched in my entire life. He does a really good job farting and singing sea shanties and fighting Robert Pattinson through this movie. But I promise you, I will never watch this movie again. So I would have picked Florida Project for Willem Dafoe.
Another good pick.
That would have been my choice, but because I'm just not a fan of this, put it in the chat, Paul. Well, I'll get to you in a second. Put it in the chat. Thank you. That's just my personal thing. Well, that went a lot faster. So now the gloves get to come off. That means everybody gets to talk. Everybody gets to throw punches. And the funny part, the punching bag is up first. Koho, give us your 7.
I thought it was Paul.
I'm up first, I believe.
Oh, you are. Never mind. Everybody wait. Paul, go ahead.
Put the gloves away.
So my number 7, I have a feeling that this movie may come up at some point. My number 7, Koho's list is really bad. He's an agent sent here to ruin my evening and possibly my entire life. It's Vicky, Krieps, and Phantom Thread. I think this is a crazy underrated performance.
1 second. Is this, Lucas, is this on your list too, I think?
It is on my list. You said it's, what is it to punt?
7th or 4. Is it above 4?
It is. We can talk
what
about
spot? Just say the spot. What spot is it?
It's my number 4. It's my number 4.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you guys can talk about it and then we'll all discuss.
Yeah, I think this is an amazing performance. So Reynolds is definitely the flashier and showier performance in this movie, Daniel Day-Lewis. But I think the sort of quiet fury that she holds is something that really elevates the movie to another level. I think she's just so captivating, and I see she almost absorbs Reynolds' sort of nastiness. When they're sitting down at dinner and she's looking over at the woman and she's saying she doesn't deserve that dress. You see that nastiness kind of seep into her, and then she sort of just spirals out from there on. It's such an amazing, varied performance that has such a great arc to it. I just think this is staggering stuff, and DDL has so much power and charisma on the screen, and I think to hold your own against him is such an achievement, and I think she does that and even more. I can't believe this wasn't nominated for Best Actress. She's amazing. Go ahead, Lucas.
I mean, I agree with you in everything. I think that the fact that you can get an actress who has very little credits to her name, is not particularly famous, can come in and beat DDL in his own movie, that's ridiculous. She outshines him, I think, in almost every scene. She has this just power, and he is absolutely mesmerized the entire film, and she's just amazing. I can't think of, I never knew going to this movie that I was going to walk out going, Vicky Krieps is the performance from Phantom Thread, not Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, they're both amazing, but she's the best performance in that movie.
Okay. Somebody's going to have to fill me in. I don't get the hype for this movie. I fell asleep in this movie. I don't get it. I honestly,
it's a very
don't.
Uncody movie as well. To be fair,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Very
fair.
Uncody.
I just find this movie incredibly boring. And maybe they're just too complex for me. Maybe I'm just too not at the level of you two. But let me tell you, this movie is boring as shit to me, and I honestly find her really boring. Like beyond. Like you say that she beat Daniel Day-Lewis, and I am literally sitting here. What? I don't believe you at all. Because the second time I watched it and I stayed awake. I mean, it's fine. It's an okay movie, but it's nowhere near Daniel Day-Lewis's best movies at all. And the overall movie is a snorefest. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, please do that, Zach Ford. Thanks for showing up, though. I appreciate it. Koho Kirk, I just really am curious. Why did this performance miss your list?
Has Koho seen the movie?
I'll let you go ahead, Kirk.
I haven't seen Phantom Thread yet, so.
Boo!
I watched this movie in
Yeah.
a theater, and I looked at my watch 30 minutes in and said, I think I should leave because I don't think this is going to get any better. And I said, no, I'll stay.
God
It's a Best
damn
Picture
you.
nominee. I think it should stay. So I stayed all the way through, and I regret staying. I should have left because Vicky Krieps is not good in this movie, and she's the focus. She's
Dog,
the
didn't
focus.
you watch Beauty and the Beast live action and you wanted to walk out at Phantom Thread? Like,
I
what are you
didn't want to watch.
talking about?
At least Beauty and the Beast is a good story. This is bullshit. Vicky
Oh my
Krieps-
god!
Vicky Krieps is literally the most boring performance in this
Oh.
movie. To say that she beat DDL in this movie is ridiculous. The only reason why I stayed was because DDL was adequate.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah,
you like
yeah.
Emma Stone.
Who likes nuance anyway? Who likes nuance?
You know,
Me and Lucas have had this argument many times.
Anyway, bringing us back.
I'm going to 6. Go to your 6. Paul.
My number 6, I think this might be a punt or yikes. We'll see. It's Adam Driver in Marriage Story.
Yikes.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. My number
It came out in
5.
2019. It is.
My number 5. I have a feeling that I will be able to talk about this. It is a delightfully underrated performance, and that's Carey Mulligan's performance in Wildlife. Wildlife, one of my favorite, most underrated films of the 2010s, I think. Just Paul Dano's directorial debut, and there's just this powerful sadness that Carey Mulligan carries throughout this entire movie. She plays this housewife in the Midwest, and Jake Gyllenhaal and her have a lot of tension, and their marriage is not necessarily the best, and she has to sort of go on this path of self-discovery, and she doesn't necessarily like herself very much. Like a lot of times, there's a lot of self-loathing going on, but it's just an incredibly empathetic and human performance that I think is just so warm. And she completely, like, the entire movie is just on her shoulders, and I think she is astounding in this movie. It's a really, quiet or understated type of role and movie. But there's a scene particularly where Bill Camp's character goes and has dinner at their house, and it's like the most anxious I've been in a movie in a long time. And I just think this is a great movie and an incredible performance. I think Carey Mulligan is like one of the great actors of this generation. I wish that she was appreciated more. But I think she's amazing in Wildlife, and I wish that more people would see this movie.
Okay, so basically you sent me this yesterday. I had a full thing of matches to do last night, and then I worked today, so I could only get one movie in. I chose the other movie because we'll talk about that later. I'm kind of happy that I took the other one, but I'm really excited to watch this movie because I was really surprised with your last one that you told me about. So can't say anything wrong with it. I'll have to watch it and see, but I will definitely get to it this year. It will probably be my next watch, so I'm excited to actually see this movie. Kirk, actually, Lucas, you had an actual reaction to this with this choice. Why did this miss your list? And then Koho and Kirk, you can go after.
I mean, I haven't seen this. Is the biggest reason. This has actually been a movie that's been at the top of my watch list for like a really long time, and I keep trying to get to it. It's a really small release. It's kind of hard to get. But I hear amazing things. So I applaud Paul for putting it on his list because I hear fantastic things with the movie. Very excited to watch it.
Whoever wants to go.
I have not
I
seen
haven't-
this one yet either, so.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
No, that's fair. Okay, well, at least we're all in the same boat here. Cool. So you didn't pick a bad movie, apparently. Let's go to your 4.
I tried not to do this as much just because I wanted to be a little nicer to the panel and to Cody. But this is a foreign film, and the performance is Ando Sakura's performance in Shoplifters. She plays the sort of matriarch of this makeshift family. And I think there's a lot of performances from this movie you could highlight, but I love that her character is such an enigma, and it's really hard to nail her down. You don't really understand her interiority until the movie gets really, really far into its runtime. And I think that when it takes the turn that it takes about 2/3 of the way in, I think it really recontextualizes everything that she's doing up until that point. And I just think that she plays so many different shades and colors. Like, she's a different thing at work than she is with the family. And I just think, again, she carries so much emotional weight of this movie, and so many of the important moments are based on her. And it's really a different type of performance. It's kind of a little more subtle. It's not as like dramatic in these big sweeping moments. A lot of it is more casual. There's just like conversations that she's having, but I think the way that she executes that is really great. And it's an incredible movie too, but I just think that she's a very, very underrated performance, and I think amazing movie, amazing performance.
36 episodes in, I have finally seen Shoplifters. Ooh, finally off my list. So far that is 2 foreign films this year, which beats my previous record of 0 probably in the past year. So I am slowly trying to become stop being an uncultured swine. I love this movie. This movie had me completely enthralled. Again, I was probably one of those people you consider that I don't want to read a film. Like, I figured that I would miss stuff, or like I don't, like, that's just how I kind of looked at it for the longest time. And for Parasite and this to like completely like bring me in the entire time, and like the story and the acting performances throughout this entire cast, honestly, I think the cast is insane in this movie. I absolutely love this movie. 4 is a fantastic choice for this movie. I would have been a little surprised. I would have expected a little higher, knowing after seeing it today, I would probably put it a little higher. I think this movie's fantastic. So thanks, Paul. You finally got me to see a film that I actually liked. So awesome. Everybody else on Shoplifters, Lucas, you didn't have it. Kirk, you guys didn't have it. So why did this one miss it? Have you not seen it? What's going on?
Yeah, this one's still sitting at the top of my watch list. I'm not. I mean, I like foreign language films. That's not the problem. It's just it's hard to get the time, because when I watch them, I have to sit down and watch them. It can't be one of those things where I put something on and I can get distracted. So I really just haven't had the opportunity to look at it yet. But it's definitely one I'm very excited to see.
It's on Hulu, by the way, for anyone who's interested in watching it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, we're gonna need to.
It's not a lot long, actually. Go ahead.
It's an amazing movie. The only reason it misses my list is because I feel like it's one of, I think Moonlight also falls in the same category. It's just like they're ensemble movies to me, and I have trouble picking out a performance. I agree the mom is fantastic. I think the dad is also fantastic. I think it has one of the scariest scenes in any movie of the last 10 years. Fantastic film, just a movie that didn't have a performance that I could pick out as the one I wanted to recognize from it.
I think Lily Frankie would be fine. It would be a good choice too. Who plays the father? He's also amazing. In this movie.
Yeah.
I've yet to see it. So.
Okay, we're going Koho. What's your 7?
Alrighty, let's get right into it then. My number 7 is Saoirse Ronan from Lady Bird.
Yikes.
Cool. My number 6 is Christian Bale in The Fighter. I ended up going with The Fighter over Vice because I did a scene for scene balance, and I think he's better than The Fighter. Bale kind of completely gets transformed in this one. Both are transformative. It's just I think I barely recognized him in The Fighter. And that whole performance, you feel for him, but you also are almost scolding him, and you want him to get better, but you also you trust him for like the first half of the movie is totally being there, and then in the second half you're like, I don't know if I can trust you, but I want you to do well, and you really connect with Bale throughout the movie, and he's the one that you really just cheer for, and he kind of moves into this sort of mentorship role while trying to get better. I think he's excellent in The Fighter.
Yeah. So like, it's not a secret that Koho kind of he puts the show together. He sees all the lists beforehand. He does a really good acting job of when he wants to say what he wants to, but when he was coming up with his list and talking into it, and he's literally said Vice, I said, "Oh my god!" I said, "If you're going to pick a Bale performance, please
Thank
put
God
The
he
Fighter."
did not pick that.
I said, "Please put The Fighter." I mean,
He's great.
He stop.
He's the best part of that movie.
His makeup artist is really good
true.
in Vice.
Fourth or fifth best Bale performance of the decade, maybe?
Yeah.
Is Vice?
So I basically thought, I think The Fighter is, like, I love The Fighter. I think the movie is incredible, and I think his performance is what lifts it. I don't know why I'm in love with it. Maybe it's the setting. Maybe it's, the story. I don't know, but I am just
big crack fan. Big crack fan. Cody Newberry.
Big crack fan. Love substance abuse. But I think this is by far better than Vice by a mile. I'm so glad that you decided to finally put the correct choice on there. Scene for scene. I wonder how long that took you to decide which one's better. What you see? No, it's clear.
By saying scene for scene, I went to the big scene that I usually think of him for Vice for, and I went to the big scene from The Fighter that I usually think of him for. And I let them make it.
What big scene from Vice?
Wow. Fuck you.
The power.
Piss off.
Okay. So technically what's saying that Bale did not make anybody's list for the decade.
That's disgusting.
So as maybe I'm wrong, but I would consider Vail one of the best actors working today. Why not
this fucker? This guy.
I see what you did there. Why no Vail, and better yet, why no Fighter?
I'll go first. I think Bale's got a high batting average. He doesn't have a lot of performances that really just knock my socks off, is the thing for me. Like, he always comes to play. And I think this is sort of well known, I guess, with people in this community, but I'm not a David O. Russell fan really almost at all. And I don't really like this movie very much. He's definitely better than Mark Wahlberg in it. But I just think that there's something about this performance that's a little, you don't quite get into the interior of his mind the way that I kind of would like to with a character like this. I feel like he doesn't let you in the way that I think would really make his performance elevate the movie. And just not quite. Yeah, if I was going to go with a Bale performance, it honestly might be Ford and Ferrari or something like that. Like, I think he's pretty great in that. But just not quite for me.
That's fair.
This was on my short list. Probably would have been top 15, top 20, somewhere in there. It's a great performance, and I love him in this. And I was considering putting him on the list for American Hustle because I love him in American Hustle. But I think, was it Paul said? Yeah, I mean, to use a sports analogy, a really obscure sports analogy, Christian Bale's Paul Konerko. He's always going to be really, really good, but he's never great.
World Series MVP. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean overall. Yeah, he's going to pull out a World Series MVP.
Objection. He's using baseball terminology to boost his grade.
Working.
I probably had like 2 or 3 Bale performances in my top 20, but none of them just made the cut. But I mean, it's a great Chicago pick. No,
are you? Oh, okay.
He's from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I know, but I love the Konerko thing. That's well done. Well done. I'm curious about the move. Okay, that does help your score, Lucas.
I mean, I think I'm similar to Kirk in this, that I was considering a lot of his performances. And I had I was looking at Out of the Furnace. I was looking at The Big Short. I was looking at The Fighter. It was just kind of like a lot. I was looking at Hostiles. He has a lot of performances that are really good, but none of them really stuck out to me. It was like, I have to put that on the list. It was a lot of I can consider a lot of these, but I'm never going to pick necessarily one of them. He's like an MVP runner-up, to use another baseball analogy.
It's like Michael Young. I think he's more of a Michael Young than a Paul Konerko.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Does he wear buzzers or not? Okay, we'll get back to that later. It's different.
Don't rip his jersey. Don't rip his jersey, Cody.
Stop it. Okay.
He's very bashful. He doesn't like his chest being seen.
Okay. God, both of our teams suck right now. Okay. Let's go to your 5.
My number 5 is the great Philip Seymour Hoffman in The Master. I saw The Master after I saw Phantom Thread, and then I saw Boogie Nights. And Boogie Nights saved any interest I had in PTA. And I was like, maybe I just don't like Phantom Thread, and he might have another one. And The Master confirmed that I like PTA for the most part. And this performance was the thing that really got me invested in The Master as a whole. I think Hoffman is extremely charismatic while also being a little bit crazy. and like he always makes you think that no matter how ridiculous the things he's saying, you buy into it because he has you sort of in that trance that he needs to as a character and in this performance, like he does for Joaquin Phoenix throughout the movie. So yeah, I think you're all crazy for not having Hoffman higher on your list, if at all.
Paul, Lucas, you had it right.
Did he was my number 8.
And Kirk, did you have?
No.
Okay, so go ahead. You two talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman, or Lucas, you talk about it.
I mean, I agree with everything Koho just said. He's so good in this movie. The scene where he has like testimonial scene with Phoenix is just amazing. Hoffman is an amazing actor who is he's just great in everything he's in. Basically, it's kind of scary how talented he is. He's just weird and brilliant and fantastic. I mean, rest in peace to an amazing actor we lost way too soon. One of the saddest losses of this decade. Fantastic. Please watch The Master. He's insanely good in it. It's scary how good he is in that movie.
Yes. So this is one that I watched because I knew it was going to make somebody's.
This joke got me. I'm sorry.
The comment was also that I find it weird that somebody likes The Master but bored by Phantom Thread. I don't know if that's true, but maybe I think those two performances of Joaquin and Philip Seymour Hoffman are so good in that movie. They're very like dynamic throughout the entire thing. I understand why Todd Phillips grabbed Joaquin Phoenix for the Joker now, because he was playing it before he got the role in this movie. Basically,
not just this movie either.
That's true. But I think when I was watching, I was like, why is everybody putting Philip Seymour Hoffman as the main person? And then I watched it fully through because that was 30 minutes in. I'm like, I don't really like. That's when he's been in it for over 30 minutes. I'm like, I'm not really getting it. And then the movie starts developing more, and I completely understand it. I'm not like totally in love with The Master. I don't like. It's not one of my favorite movies of all time, but the acting performances alone make that movie stand out like insane. I'm not the biggest PTA fan either, but this one is an amazing performance. I already know why Paul didn't include it on his list, so we'll talk about that last. But Kirk, why no Philip Seymour Hoffman?
Hoffman and Joaquin were both on my short list, and in a weird way, they may have canceled each other out. And it's also the fact I've only seen The Master once, so I may not appreciate it fully, the performances fully. If I rewatch it a couple times, maybe I'd get more out of it. Not to say that I didn't love both performances, but yeah, I'm not gonna say against the pick. It's a great pick. Probably would have been made my top 15.
And I'm an Oscar snob. He did not win for this role, right? No. Nominated. Okay.
He was it was a weird thing where he was nominated in supporting actor, which he's not really a supporting actor, I don't think, in this movie. Like, I think they're co-leads. And then I think because of that, there was some weird stuff about the category fraud, but yeah, he did not win for this movie. I believe this was Christoph Waltz beat him for Django.
Yes.
Which is just Christoph Waltz doing the same thing he did before that again, but that's fine. Yeah, I guess I'll just jump in right here. This was on my list originally, but I knew it was going to be talked about. So I wanted to spotlight some other stuff. I think that objectively speaking, this is probably one of the 4 or 5 best performances of the decade. I think it just doesn't quite connect with me in that same way. I am a big fan of PTA, but The Master has always been something that I haven't really been able to crack, and I haven't watched it in a little bit. I plan on rewatching it soon, but it's always just been a little distant for me, and I know that's sort of the point, but there's something that really prevents me from loving it the way that I think. Maybe I will on the next watch, but I mean, again, Hoffman is like maybe the best actor of his entire generation. He's like an astoundingly talented person who can play so many different colors, and he's amazing in this movie. But I just wanted to highlight some other movies and performances.
This movie also made me sad because realizing that he's no longer with us. So like watching his performance, I'm like, damn, like he was gone way too soon. Give us your 4, Koho.
My number 4 is J.K. Simmons in Whiplash.
Yikes.
Okay. So we're going Lucas. Give us your 7 and work your way up.
My number 7 is Dave Johns in I, Daniel Blake. So, didn't expect the yikes on this one. This is a really small British movie about a guy who gets injured while working and has to fight to get benefits, disability benefits, so he can continue living. It's basically this really small personal story of a man who loses his pride, who has to give up on his, any sense of like feeling like he feels like somebody has to be able to help him. Somebody owes him something. He's contributed to society. He's been a good person. The minute he's down, somebody should help him. And you just watch this guy get destroyed. But at the same time he's getting destroyed, he's trying to help anybody around him he can. It's a truly astounding performance. Everyone, please go watch it. It's on Netflix right now. I got Cody to watch it. Please watch this movie. It's fantastic.
This movie is the saddest horror movie I have ever watched. And it's basically a no power to his own. Like, he does everything that he's supposed to. It just shows how awful the system is. And, like, you have to do this and you have to go through this hoop. And he's aging, so he doesn't have the technology base like everybody else does. And he just wants help and he can't find help. And he, like, ends up helping a family that he's in no shape to help whatsoever, but continues to help them. He is, like, I've never laughed as hard in a movie at times, and also like cried. Like it was the mixture of this movie that happened. And this movie, truth be told, would be a movie that I would have never watched if it wasn't for Lucas putting it on his list. Same thing with Shoplifters. I wouldn't have watched these movies. So I'm kind of glad that I do this show now. But this is why I kind of want like lists to come in as they come so I can start watching these movies, because I want to have a discussion about them. And this one it's on Netflix. It's so accessible. It's not long, and it's literally captivating. Like, it will literally bring you in. If I was making my list revise, I would probably put this a little higher because I think its performance is insane in this movie. I absolutely love it. I can't wait to watch it again, honestly. You're number 6. Oh, wait, you guys did not have this. Yeah, you did not have this.
No,
so
I don't.
Who has seen this and who hasn't? I'm just curious.
I have
seen
not.
No, Ken Loach is a big blind spot for me. I've only seen one of his movies, and this is not that one. So
Yeah. You guys sold me on it, though. I add to my watch list while you're talking here.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how long it'll be on Netflix because I'm guaranteed it's not going to get the watches that, like, the ridiculous 6 or some stupid bullshit out there now. But I guarantee
for more on a ridiculous 6, stay tuned to the rest of my list.
That's co-host top 3. Okay. Okay. All right. Go to your 6.
So my number 6 is Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yikes.
Okay,
we're yikes an actor, right?
Yeah, we're yikesing actor.
Okay, I have him at 4.
Okay.
I have it higher. I have Leo higher than that.
All right.
So we're waiting for Leo. So wait for the rev in it. Okay, go ahead.
Cody's joke at the beginning pays off. My number 5 is Daniel Day-Lewis in Phantom Thread. I had to put them both on here. Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, okay. Now I really did figure it out. Yeah, I understand what Cody watched now and why. Anyway. And then your 4 we already talked about.
And then my 4 is Vicky Krieps we already talked about.
Yeah. Okay. You don't get to talk much. I kind of like it.
I really don't.
Thanks for being on the show.
Okay, my number 7 is Tom Hardy in Locke.
That's my 10.
Okay. I am on record. I am not a big Tom Hardy fan. I think he's a huge tryhard. I think he wants you to see every ounce of effort he's putting into his performance every single time he's on screen, and he's exhausting to watch. And
big fan.
And I usually really don't like him. So I went into this movie and I expected not to last too long, but he really defied every expectation I had. He sinks into this role. The fact that he is literally the only human being seen on screen for the entire movie, and he does such a fantastic job of becoming this character and everything he's going through, all the stress of his job and his family and this woman he's dealing with, and dealing with the history of his life and what he went through with his father, and then trying the struggle of trying to do the right thing by this woman, but also by his kids, and just seeing this guy get torn apart in a million different pieces and just trying to do the right thing is such a powerful performance. And like I said, it's something I'm not used to seeing with Tom Hardy at all, where he just becomes the role. Every time I watch Tom Hardy, I know every second I'm watching Tom Hardy act because that's what he wants to show me. And this was the exact opposite of that. And I thought it was fantastic.
No one sits in the car like him. Okay.
Lucas, right? Lucas talks about it because it was 10.
Lucas.
So that was my number 10. And so I'm the opposite of Kirk. I love Hardy. I think he's fascinating. I think he's interesting. I think he makes every performance he's in worth watching. But I think Locke does stand above. I think he does stand above his other performances. If you told, like, it's just, I don't think there are many actors who can sit in a car and make phone calls and make that an engaging movie. And I think that's just a credit to this. This is another one that's on Netflix. Go watch it. And fun fact, it's early. It might the first time I ever heard the voice of Tom Holland. So it's a little weird introduction to him. Fantastic movie.
Yeah. I like this movie. I didn't find it as engaging as I needed it to be. It might have been the time of day I watched it. It might have been, how I watched it. I don't know. But I did enjoy his performance. I just wouldn't put him in the top 10. I consider, like, when he's acting pretty much against himself the entire time, like that speaks for it. It's kind of like a movie with all these technical elements, but I don't really like fall in love with the story that much. So I think that's why it kind of didn't hit fully with me. I think it's a great movie for what it is. It just didn't really resonate. It didn't capture me, especially like I am Dana Blake. So, so anybody, you guys didn't have Hardy on your list at all. So, which I understand kind of, but why not? And why not this movie?
You can go first.
I like this performance. I saw this movie for the first time towards the end of last year, and I didn't love the movie. It's fine, but Tom Hardy was the only reason why I was really watching it, and like he was really engaging to follow. So I think like his performance is good. There's not really a Tom Hardy performance this decade that I can single out as one that I would fit in my top 10. But if I were to pick one, it would have probably been this one. But yeah, it's not a bad pick at all.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I mean, we all know director Stephen Knight really peaked with Serenity, the masterpiece of 2019. But no, I do like Hardy. Hardy's kind of in the Bale zone for me, where I like a lot of his performances. I don't know if I necessarily love them. This is almost the anti-Hardy performance, though, because his face is showing the entire time, and you can understand what he's saying. He's not like grunting his way through dialogue or doing a weird voice performance. He's just talking about pouring concrete the entire time. And I think it is an engaging movie. It's just a movie that's solid, not spectacular for me, which is the reason that I just think it's a slight cut below the rest. But this is a really good performance, and I am a fan of Hardy in general, but just I don't know if he's given one that really stands out to me in the 2010s that is incredible.
Okay, let's go to your 6.
My number 6 is actually Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story. And I went with this one again. I mean, you could have went with either leads in this, either her or Adam Driver. And I debated for a long time over which one to go with. I knew that Adam Driver would be on probably multiple people's lists, other places. And I know he has the showier role in this movie, but just watching her try to hold it together. I compare this performance to one of my all-time favorite performances, which is Sidney Poitier in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, where it's somebody just going through a situation where they're holding themselves together, but you can just see everything brewing up inside of them. And I think she does that in this movie, where she's looks like, yeah, everything's okay. But where Adam Driver has those moments where he really just blows up, she's just teetering on that edge the whole time. And I know everybody talks about the big fight scene towards the end as the big, the prestige scene of this movie. For me, it's the scene where she first meets Laura Dern's character and basically tells a story of their marriage, and just all the emotions she goes through and the ups and downs she goes through in that monologue are amazing. So I love this performance. Again, I stuck with one actor per movie, so I picked her. Very easily could have been Driver, but yeah, great movie, great role.
Yeah, I think this movie is definitely 50-50. You either choose one or the other, or, they're both great. I would kind of lean towards Driver, but I don't want to get into too much because I know he's coming back up. So I think she's fine in this movie. I just think she's outshined by Driver, just because of what he gets to, what he's given to do in this movie.
Zach Ford is killing it tonight. Just saying.
I'm just glad he's in the chat. I appreciate it. And I think when it breaks down to that scene of the main scene of the movie, the fight, just how they react, I just think Trevor's better in it. That's just my personal opinion, but I don't think she's bad by any means. I just don't. I think she's just outshined. You guys. How many people had Marriage Story for Driver? We haven't talked about it yet, but how many people had? Just 2 people? All 3 had it. So, okay. So, why not Scarlett Johansson? Was it because one per movie? Obviously not with somebody. But, why not the other performance?
For me, this is actually, my second favorite ScarJo performance of the 2010s. I would have picked Under the Skin if I was doing a ScarJo nomination on this list. I think that her stodgy and elusiveness in that movie is really great. But I think in Marriage Story, to me, actually my favorite driver scenes, which we'll talk about later, are not the fight. But I do think that scene with her in Laura Dern's office is pretty incredible, and she's really fantastic in the movie. I think her monologue is great. I think the way she performs Baumbach's dialogue is really delightful. But it just was little. It just missed it. This is probably somewhere in the 11 to 30 range for me in terms of favorite performances of this decade. And she's great, just not quite list worthy for me.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson is great. I did the one per movie thing. I would push back and say she arguably has the showier role. She has more scenes to do, a lot more emotional changes. Laura Dern's scene alone, she shows more range in that one scene than Driver gets the chance to do throughout the entire film, at least openly. But we'll get to that later. But I think she's excellent. She deserves the Oscar, 100%. And I don't know if she'll win it, but I hope she does.
She won't.
I know.
I'm honestly, I think I'm a little bit farther out than these guys. ScarJo just wasn't in consideration for any of her performances. She's an actress to me that, while she's always good, I feel like she's rarely great. Even in this movie, I think she's good a lot. I think there was a couple scenes where she's really great, but to me, Driver just really outshines her. It's a 2-person movie where he is clearly the A side of it, and I just think he's much better.
If you would have included Lucy, you'd have more people on board. Okay, let's move on to your next.
Cody, if you use more than 10% of your brain, you never know what things you can unlock.
My number 5 is Ben Foster in Hell or High Water. This was another one I could have picked 2 or 3 performances out of this movie, but this is the one I think, and I went between him and Chris Pine for a while. It was a hard decision, but I think he just does a little more. His character, just seeing someone in that life and what he's been through, and trying to find his way to be the good guy, even though he knows he's not. He knows he's the bad guy. He knows he's the villain, but still trying to pull through and do what he can do the right thing for his family. And he just, again, it's another of those roles where he just he sucks you in, and you understand where he's coming from and why he does the things he does. And just how he goes back and forth from being real dangerous and violent to fun and playful with his brother, and you see his heart, and just that that path he takes, that tragic ending. It's just such a mind blowing performance. A great movie. Again, like I said, so many good performances. Movie. I understand if you guys couldn't narrow it down to one, maybe that's why you didn't pick it. But yeah, I love him in this movie.
This is my favorite movie of that year.
Mine too.
Ben Foster, I think, is incredible in this movie. I agree that you could pick multiple, but I think Ben Foster is the correct choice. Obviously, I think that look back that he gives Chris Pine when they realize that one is always going to flee and one is not going to stop going down that path. I've also never looked at Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb the same way since this movie, because I still find that line incredibly only assholes drink Mr. Pibb. I just don't think he's. I think he's super underrated as an actor, and I think this movie was like one of those. Wrong with Foster. Okay, fine, but I absolutely love this movie. I think he's awesome. I think that honestly, this is working with Chris Pine. This brought out like one of Chris Pine's best performances. So I absolutely love this movie. I absolutely love Ben Foster. I have no problem with it being number 5. No Ben Foster and no Hell or High Water. Explain yourselves, gentlemen.
I mean, Kirk did pick the better 2016 Ben Foster-Chris Pine collaboration of the two possible options here. But no, I think Foster was a great actor. He's one that's always talked about. I think we call him underrated so much that I think he's pretty properly rated. He's like an amazing actor, and he's great in a lot of different stuff. I love him in this. I love him in Leave No Trace. I think that Pine is the performance in this movie that has actually stuck with me the most on rewatches. I see Kirk's cat disagrees very vehemently. But I just think that Pine brings a fullness to his performance that I think Foster's character is great, but I think it's a little simplistic, I guess, for my taste. I mean, he's amazing. You know, I'm not saying it's a bad performance by any means, but just not quite on the same level as these other ones.
Only Paul could put simplistic and not a bad performance into the same sentence and make it sound good.
Well, his character, not the performance. His character is constructed simplistically. Yeah.
I considered a performance in this movie. For me, it was Bridges and not Pine or Foster that I was thinking about. I love Bridges in this movie. I mean, I acknowledge that Bridges is kind of just doing the Bridges thing. Yeah, it's kind of just 3 people in a movie that are all really good, but I had trouble picking one of them. Never forget, Ben Foster played Lance Armstrong. So, fun fact.
I like Ben Foster and Hell or High Water quite a bit. If I was going to pick a performance for Hell or High Water, it would have been this one. I love this movie. I just kind of couldn't choose. But if I did choose, I think I would have leaned Foster. But it's one of those where it's like it's very much a movie that is those 3 performances sort of hinging on each other. So,
okay, let's go to your 4.
And my number 4 got yikes already. It is Leo in Django Unchained. Is my number 4.
Yeah,
Okay. So we're in the top half, so we're going to trade 3 apiece. So if it's in your 2 and 1 above, so say yikes. If it's in your 3, you'll talk about it at the same point. Paul, what's your 3?
I don't think this is going to be yikes. My number 3 is a performance and an actor that is near and dear to my heart. It's still Timothée Chalamet as Elio in Call Me By Your Name. This is a performance I love so much because of the way he brings a physicality to the performance. I think that elevates it above what it might have been otherwise. I think you see he reflects his emotional state with his body so often. You see, like when he's really withdrawn and sort of forlorn, he's on his bed and he's curled up and he's not opening himself up to the world. And then when he starts to interact more and more and embrace his sexuality, I think you see him sort of be more open and free in his movements, and you see him dancing in that club scene, which is one of my favorite scenes of the 2010s. But I think that again, there's such a quiet but also loud balance that he brings to this character. They're highs and lows, and I think he plays both of them with a really strong sincerity. The last shot of the movie is amazing, I think, and it's just that one unbroken take with visions of Gideon playing. I think he's an astoundingly powerful and kinetic actor who's got such great energy, and this is, I think, the performance that best channels that energy. And I was floored by this movie and this performance especially. And it's something that I think the more I revisit, I think I just get more out of it every time. There's a little glance he makes here, the way he plays the piano. It's just there's such a totality to this character that I think is almost second to none.
So my opinion on this is not going to be the best. And guess what? It's my show. I don't care. I've seen it one time. I wasn't in love with it the first time. I didn't really like it that much. It always comes with Oscar time that my theater gets stuff late, so I watch everything like as fast as I possibly can, and I don't let movies sit, or I don't go try to watch them again. So this is one of them. I've seen it one time. I thought it was a good movie. I just didn't get elevated to an insane level. So that's my take on Call Me By Your Name. I don't think it's a bad performance by any means, but it's not near my favorite at all. What everybody else say about Call Me By Your Name or Timothée Chalamet? Why don't you have him or this performance on your list?
So this is actually a movie I think Paul and I have discussed like a lot. because I know he really loves it, and it's not that I don't love it, it's that I think it's really good, but maybe not on the same level. Thank you, Zach Ford.
I can't.
Zach, can you do me a favor and comment after I've made my point so I don't have to stay in the middle of it? Great performance. He's fantastic in the movie. The ending is heartbreaking. I think Chalamet is a guy who's going to, if we do another list like this in 10 years, is probably going to make that list too. I think he's one of these people that's going to keep putting out great performances over and over. It's a really great movie. I actually did consider this one. It didn't make my list, but it's you can't deny it. It's a fantastic performance.
I have not seen Call Me By Your Name yet. Chalamet, I mean, I probably should see it because this is the one everybody talks about with him, and I watch his other movies. I'm like, yeah, he's okay. So I should probably check this out to see, what everybody's talking about. But yeah, I haven't gone around to it yet.
We're gonna have to ban Zach from the chat.
We are. Okay. If I was gonna pick a Chalamet, I would have picked Little Women. I'm not a fan of Call Me By Your Name. It's not a bad movie. It's just it didn't really hit me.
Thanks.
It's not a bad movie.
You gave it your pass. The co-host said it's not a bad movie, so it's good. It's a good movie, guys.
Well, the performance from Call Me By Your Name that I would have put if I picked one was Armie Hammer. I think he's the best performance of the movie. But I don't hate the movie. I only saw it once. If I was gonna pick a Chalamet, I'd go with Little Women. I think he's really great in that.
I mean, he's great in
What?
it.
Okay. All right. If that would have made your list, I would have been real pissed off.
I thought you were doing a Jeff Bridges impersonation with your voice. Okay.
If you picked anybody besides Saoirse Ronan or Florence Pugh from that movie, you're an idiot. Okay. Go ahead. What is your three, Koho?
My number 3 is Adam Driver from Marriage Story.
Yeah, we can talk
Talking about it now? Okay. So, Paul kind of referred to it earlier too, but I don't think the fight's even the best scene from him in the movie. I think the scene where he sings Being Alive is the part of the movie that really hits for me. I think Adam Driver is incredible. He's telling you so much by doing so little. Like it's all like Adam Driver does a lot with his eyes throughout the entire movie, but like you can see it building in him, the little frustrations all the way through, and how like at the beginning he's committed to trying to make it work even though it's not going to, and then towards like all the way through till the end where it's like he can't even express what he's feeling to his friends, so he has to sing Being Alive. And I think Driver should win the Oscar this year, but it's going to go to Phoenix, which is not bad, but. Yeah, I think this is Driver's best performance so far, and he's never been bad at anything, so he's excellent.
Second highest, I think, was Lucas, maybe?
Sure.
I had him 9.
Oh, never mind. I had him second highest, I guess.
Yeah,
so I had him at 6. My favorite performance is actually the ending when he's reading to his kid. That is the performance I think that delivers the emotional promise that the rest of the movie is sort of establishing. I do think, again, it's throughout. It's such an amazing performance in that there's so many levels that he gets to. Like there's the hilarious scene where he cuts himself when the person is visiting in his house and he's just profusely bleeding all over the place. Like I find that hilarious. And he goes from that to, again, the tonality of that argument, which, it's been talked about so much that it's almost weirdly become underrated as a scene. I think that is really strong acting from both of them. But I mean, Driver's like probably my favorite working actor, and I think he brings it in every movie. He's got impeccable taste in films that he chooses to be in, besides a certain one that came out in December. But I just think that he's an amazing actor, and he plays every color with such earnestness, and that is what makes his characters. I mean, also he looks like a real person. He doesn't have the sort of movie star classic look. So I think he looks and feels more like a real person than I think a lot of people that are his contemporaries, which is, I think, what elevates him above a lot of them.
So this is my 9. I just have to say I agree with a lot of things Paul and Kaleb just said. I agree with Paul. He's my favorite working actor. I just think he is unique and interesting, and you can't keep your eyes off him. He's not necessarily doing anything that big, but it's like you can't stop. I think the best scene in the movie is being alive. I think that's brilliant. I think he sings it really well too, which is like for a movie where you go in expecting he's going to sing a song, but like you're okay if it's not the greatest. It's actually like really good, and that's not an easy song to sing. That's a really hard song to sing. And then the ending when he's reading the letter his wife wrote, and then like the movie almost ends with like we've spent all this time breaking up and figuring out how to split everything up, and like at the end of the movie you almost get the sense from of like, was this even worth it? Like, did I even want to not be with this person? Like, did I just make a terrible mistake? And you spent this entire movie. He's brilliant. I'll go to every single movie the guy does for the rest of his career, and Marriage Story is his best role. I almost put Patterson on this list. I love him in Patterson. It's really hard to pick it. I mean, even like What If as a supporting role, he is absolutely magnetic and brilliant in that role. Adam Driver, just fantastic.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just catching up. Q is the weakest part of Little Women. What the hell is wrong with you? Why are you on this show? Okay. Yeah, I think Driver is the best part of this entire movie. I think from start to finish. Can you get your cat's ass off my screen?
Earlier in the show, someone was asking for Kirk's cat's pics.
All you're gonna get is his asshole. So I don't know what we're doing here. Okay.
Demonetized.
Yeah, like we're making money. Okay. Right. So I think overall the performance from Driver is very like. Cole told me when I was like watching this, like some people are trying to pick sides of like who's right and who's wrong in this story, and like it's hard to do in that. And I that's fair, but like Driver, I think they both have their faults, and that's the magic of it. That they seem like a real couple going through it, and Driver's performance of it lifts everything. Lifts a movie that's basically could have been an easy Lifetime movie. To be honest with you, I think Noah Baumbach's writing stuff makes that movie beyond what it is, but like. A couple going through divorce and elevates it to like this captivating story of what many people face in America, and his performance shows that like decline of falling out of love with somebody and the hate and separate, having to deal with a child in the middle of everything, and watching what he says and does around a kid, like those things can all be used against you. So I think those little things, without him saying, I think it's a beautiful performance. Probably not going to win the Oscar, which will tick off a lot of people, but like. The facts are, it sucks, but that's what it is. But I think it's a really good performance. And I think he's very strong in this past decade. So I'm excited for the next decade because I think he has a shot to be one of the top ones working. Okay. Kirk, you did not have this Marriage Story. You had, I know, Paul.
Yeah.
You did not have it. So
yeah, and I mean, this was a big reason why I knew Adam Driver was going to get talked about. And yeah, he's amazing in this movie. I like him. I'm not as big a fan of, like, I don't get excited when I see Adam Driver's in a movie. I'm going to go see it and I'll enjoy it, but I'm not like, on the edge of my seat for it. But this is just head and shoulders above anything else he's done. So yeah, like I said with ScarJo, it was, this was the hardest decision I had to make on the whole list of which one I was going to put on there. So they both deserve it, and nobody's wrong here.
Fair. All right.
Nobody's wrong in the movie. Nobody's wrong on the list.
Fair. Lucas, go to your 3.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, Cody. My number 3 is Mads Mikkelsen in The Hunt. This is this Danish movie where Mads Mikkelsen plays a kindergarten teacher who is accused of being a pedophile. And you get to watch the entire town he lives in turn against him, even though there's these allegations are not verified. It's just like this movie. You watch him, his entire life gets destroyed because of something that isn't true. And it's a heartbreaking performance. You get to watch this guy just literally fall apart. There's a particular scene during Christmas service in the church where he comes in and he's reached his point. He's like, what have I done? I didn't do anything. You're treating me like something I'm not. The movie ends on this fascinating question of like, how do you deal with this situation? The final scene is like really complicated. I'm not going to spoil it. Please, everyone, go watch this movie. It's heartbreaking. It's so complicated. And like, what do you even do in this situation? How do you respond as this person? this town is your entire life, and everyone is treating you like something you're not, and there's no way for you to defend yourself. You're trying to talk to your friends. You're trying to tell them, hey, this isn't me. This isn't me. No one will listen to you. No one will defend you. And then people start going after you. And it's just, he's amazing. And it's honestly, watching this and then watching his more commercial American stuff, it's kind of depressing because he's so good in this movie. And then they give him like crap roles like Rogue One or Doctor Strange. And it's just like, I wish we'd get back to giving this guy like roles that are worth of his skill, because he's so good in this movie. And then he gets this like crappy blockbuster roles.
It's real cute, Lucas. You told people to go watch this movie. Where watch this movie? I couldn't find it.
Public libraries. Go to your public library, people.
I think it's on Tubi.
Did you just cuss at me?
Which is free. It's a free streaming service that like you can just sign up for.
Okay. Well, here's my viewpoint on it. I have a lot of things like this, and I'm just not downloading more and more on top of everything. So maybe, okay, sure, I'll check it out one day. But again, one I couldn't get to in the time that I needed. So who has seen this movie? Well, of course. Go ahead, Paul. Tell us why didn't this make your list?
It's an incredible performance. There's something about it that doesn't connect with me on the same level it does with Lucas. It's another one that's objectively great. There's nothing I can really criticize. I think that he really does dig deep and sort of pull out these really heartstrung emotional moments. But this other performances is connected with me more. You know, Connor for real, just greater than Mads Mikkelsen in The Hunt. So what are you gonna do?
This is actually what I do want to see. It's on my watch list. It's on my Tubi queue. But it's one of those, none of it, because like I said, with foreign language films, you're really got to be ready to focus. But I know it's a real downer of a movie, and like I have to be prepared for that. I just haven't been, so I haven't seen it. But I want to watch it. Yeah, I'm excited to see like Luke was saying, Mads Mikkelsen gets all these like really cheesy roles. I'd really like to see him do some real acting. So,
Joe, have you seen it?
I have not, but I'm interested from that description.
Rent it, $3 on Amazon. Give Bezos your money.
It's no Polar, let me tell you.
Also, can we never use the words "to be Q" in consecutive order ever again? Because that just makes me uncomfortable.
Okay. Second rate crackle. But Joe Dirt 2 was on Crackle. Please. Was on Crackle. We're going Kirk, I think, for your 3.
Yeah, my number 3 is Saoirse Ronan in Lady Bird. Yeah, I know this. I knew this would be the one that was going to keep me from winning tonight, but I got to put it on there. Yeah, this is. I've said this before in the show. I think she's one of the best working actresses today. When it's all said and done, I think we're going to talk about her as one of the best ever. So I definitely want to talk about one of her performances, and this is my favorite of hers of the decade. I could, so many movies like this when you have a high school student. I compare it to like a movie like Juno, where Juno's not a high school student; she's a 35-year-old woman, who's wandering around in this movie as a high school student, because nothing she says or does is anything like what a high school student would do or say. Where Lady Bird, and this goes for every. I could have said Laurie Metcalf, or this is one of my favorite ensembles of the decade. So many great performances there because they're all so real. Everything that she does in this movie is so grounded, so real, and exactly what you would expect a girl that age in that situation to do. And she just really is it's so understated because it is so real and so natural. And I love everything about this movie. I love everything she does in it. And again, I could have picked probably at least 4 different people from this movie. But I wanted to talk about her specifically, so that's why I picked that one.
Yeah, I had this one down at my 7. She's magnificent. She's my personal favorite performance from 2017, and I think she does a really great job of just doing this like coming of age. I can't with Cody's face. I can't. I'll just. I've said everything I need to about Lady Bird on previous shows. If you want to hear my thoughts, I've done it already. She's great.
Okay, so coming soon to Your List Sucks. I have banned people. I have banned topics that I don't want to talk about, and now I'm about to ban movies. Hall of Fame. Lady Bird, La La Land. I'm over it.
No Mad Max. Wow. No Mad Max on there.
That hasn't been brought up as much. Like, I'm just going to sigh from now on. Like, I get it. You've heard me. I wanted to jump out the car. I don't think this movie is good. I think this movie is highly overrated. Edge of 17 is a better coming-of-age movie. Fight me. Oh, get off it, Kirk. You thought Florence Pugh sucked in Little Woman. Please be quiet.
Don't try to get me off on a tangent here.
I'm not
Edge of
going
17
to,
is
because I have a
giant
mute button.
Ladybird.
I have a mute button. Oh, well, guess what? I'm trying to watch my weight. Okay, so I'll take the diet over any time than that freaking bullshit movie. Okay, so can I please pass it to Paul, and can I pass it to Lucas, and can we not spend 75 hours on Lady Bird since we've already done that on this show 14 times?
Yeah, I mean, I love this movie. I've said it many times. It was on my favorite best of the decades list. She's basically playing Greta Gerwig as a teenager, and I think that's kind of amazing. Her and Lauren Metcalf together is what sort of make the heart of this movie. And I mean, there's so many scenes that she's amazing in, but yeah, it's a great performance and great actress. You could have picked a handful of different movies from Saoirse and be very credible.
Should have. Go ahead, Lucas.
I'm a little bit lower on this movie than the other people in here. Didn't make my best of the decade. I think she's really good in the movie. Weirdly, like the performance that fascinates me in this film is Lucas Hedges. I may just be biased, but that's the performance that's always fascinated me.
Speaking of Diet Ladybird, Lucas is just Diet Lucas Hedges, right?
Yeah, it's not incorrect statement.
Lucas Hedges, hit me up. We'll have a lift off. See who's the better Lucas.
Weird flex, but okay.
No, I'll move on from this. Good performance. Wasn't really gonna be on my list. Don't connect to the same way other people do. Keep going.
Okay, we're moving on. This is happy time. Paul, give us your team.
Everyone loves a cool girl, and my number 2 performance of the 2010s is going to be a little performance called Rosamund Pike as Amazing Amy in Gone Girl. This is a performance that I think, again, it almost gets recontextualized within the same movie. And I think she plays such this arch, difficult girl who's so much smarter than everyone else. But then I think she gets such a firm reality check when she's sort of hiding away and when she encounters these people who are from a world that she has no idea about. And I think you see her in different environments, and she's such a captivating and interesting figure. Just because, when you see how she is at Ben Affleck, she seems like she's this impeccable, unpenetratable. And then when you see her face sort of this physicality that other people bring, that's when she's like brought back down to being a human. She's so sinister. It's granted a horrifying performance, but I just think she's amazing in this movie. And yeah, phenomenal performance.
Sorry. Go literally blocked Brooklyn, Malcolm, and Andrew Barr for 5 minutes.
Because they were doing the everything smells bit, and they were on chapter 83 in 30 seconds, and I'm over it. I'm done. I'm trying to read actual comments.
And what a shocker. Malcolm likes to piggyback on that. Okay, cool. So when Paul, I'm totally out on Paul's list, then he brings me back in with this choice. Fantastic choice. I absolutely love this performance. I love this movie. I think her performance in this movie is so complex and so well acted by her. It is definitely one that stayed with me since I saw that movie. So I couldn't agree more. I think that's a fantastic choice on your part. A little shocking, I think, for me that you put it on there. Not saying that this movie doesn't resonate, but sometimes you like to go a little bit not traditional, and I think this is one that when I brought up the topic, a lot of people threw out, so I'm very impressed. Kirk, when he brought up Rosamund Pike and Gone Girl, you looked like somebody just fed you sauerkraut. So can you tell me why you looked like you were disgusted?
I wasn't more surprised than disgusted. It's just one that I wouldn't have considered. Yeah, I mean, especially this high, it's something I didn't see coming. That's all. It wasn't like, oh, I think it's a horrible pick. It's just a surprise one. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting character. I don't know how much of her performance it's about. I think, you know, if you would have put maybe, you know, half dozen different other actresses in there, you may have gotten the exact same thing out of it. I think it's, to me, for me personally anyway, is more about the story and the like Paul said, the arc she goes through. I didn't get anything personally from her in that.
I think it's important that we don't have a relationship to her as an actress, because that's why she feels like this outsider, and she's so slippery. And I think that if it was someone more recognizable, I think that you would really lose that. And I think the casting is what makes this movie so great, and that's why I think her character really works in this movie.
I'm really like Kirk. I want to sit down and watch movies through your eyes and see what you see.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, Cody, you ever tried not liking movies? Just try it out. Try it out. It's pretty great.
Only like the good ones. Only like the good ones. It's amazing. There's so many.
I always feel like there was a mission.
But you like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Like there's a mission planted from Malcolm.
Okay.
I mission planted from Malcolm, Brian Michaels, and Kirk. Like they joined this community because they like films, and then they were like, you know what? It's better to hate films. Let's hate them, and like the movies that are shit, and then let's just talk about it, and then get upset when we come at it. Okay.
Don't bring me in the same conversation with Malcolm and Brian. No, I do not accept that. I do not accept that.
Lucas, why no Rosamund Pike?
I mean, I think it's clear why Kirk didn't like this movie. It has reporters in it, and he clearly hates them. I would like to shout out the brilliant Thomas Scully for the hottest take of the century in the chat. So go read that.
I'll save you the trouble. There it is in all its glory.
Jeez,
you blocked the wrong person.
That's a rough one right there. Really good performance. Definitely thought about it. I really actually fell in love with this performance after, I'm going to little plug for a second. The Rewatchables did this, the Ringer podcast, did this movie, and I really fell in love with the performance after that time, because I think the first time I watched it was sort of so-so, and this time I was like, yeah, this is kind of amazing. It was actually in consideration for my list, just didn't make it, but like, props to Paul, it's a really good performance.
Koho.
I'm an idiot, and I just forgot about it. This would have made my list. I totally forgot about it.
I feel like that happens literally every episode with Koho.
Yeah, there's always something that I should have put, and I forget about it, and I just default to La La Land.
I'll put everybody behind. I will put everybody behind the scenes real quick. This is exactly what happens. Koho starts watching. Like I come up with a list. Oh, I'll get you a list.
Chance also competing for the hot take of the century in the comments.
And then he'll send the list and be like, "That's my list. What do you think of it?" And I'm like, "It's terrible." He's like,
"No, you just take the screenshot of his list from the top 10 page that's posted 20 times, right?"
Yeah. Koho,
I did not come here for such personal slander about my name.
You and Jonathan Peck are the top two in the top check to be there.
Hey, put some respect on my top fan cred on there.
Anyway, moving on.
All right.
What is your pick, Koho? I've already told you.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were picking my pick. Sorry, my number 2 is Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water. I really like The Shape of Water, and Sally Hawkins is mainly the reason for it. She doesn't like say anything, and like yet she's so magnetic and captivating.
She doesn't say anything. Her character's
so
mute. No shit, she doesn't say anything. Sorry, go ahead.
She's so captivating, and you really connect to her, and like the entire movie, I was just so captured by what she was doing the entire movie, and like it's a performance that I wasn't expecting to have this high on my list at the end of the decade. I just did it, and like I think the best scene of The Shape of Water for me is when she is signing to Richard Jenkins, and she's telling him like I can either save him or let him die, and he's just kind of standing there and like saying what she's signing out loud, and you kind of just see it in her eyes. This entire, like monologue of just like how she sees things and how she feels, and it's just, I think she's incredible. She's an incredible actress.
I personally really like the movie. Watching Lucas like he's a flipping bottle rocket just sitting there. Like he literally lifts up and goes.
No, he shit himself. That's what it was. He was just elevated.
No, guys, I'm super horny for a fish right now.
Okay, I'm gonna go on my soapbox for half a second.
All right, shut up. Dan Merle already did it. We don't need to hear your rant.
Okay. I like this performance a lot.
Thank you, Zach
like,
Ford.
Come on.
I just really like that you broke down that she doesn't talk, and like that's the we get it. You see the movie, we understand that point. I do think she does a lot of acting without saying anything. I do find the story itself very creepy. It's just not my cup of tea. But I don't think it's a bad movie. I honestly do think she gives a very compelling performance. I don't think it's a bad performance by any means. It's just, I watched it on rewatches. It's not that comfortable. But that's just my opinion on that. I think Michael Shannon is better in this movie, personally. But I like Michael Shannon as the creepy, weird guy that gets his fingers bitten off. It's kind of cool. What is everybody else's take on? I want to go to Lucas first because he literally just killed me.
So here's the funny thing. I can't stop laughing at this movie because, it's. I actually really like this movie, probably more than a lot of people. So that's the funniest thing is. But I think she's like the third best performance in the movie. I think Jenkins is way better than her, and I think Shannon is also just weird and bizarre and way better than her. And I just think it's a really bizarre performance to pick. Because I like the movie, and I was going through my list, and I'm like, oh, this is a movie that's like high up on that year. But I'm just not considering this performance. I think she's good, but she does some stuff, but it's just not a performance I would consider. Also, I can't get past fish sex. I mean, come on. If I wanted fish sex, I'd watch Aquaman. So
what?
What version did you get?
That's not a thing that happened. That's not a thing that happened in that movie.
Technically,
Lucas
he's
did
kind of
not
like a
watch
fish.
Aquaman, and that's fair.
That's not how Aquaman works.
You got Aquaman. That's a totally different movie.
The Spanish knockoff.
Yeah, so I have I talked about this movie on our most overrated movies of the decade list. I don't like this movie very much, but I do think she's good in it. It's some of those performances where I think if I had seen 200 movies in my life, I would be really blown away by it. But I think the really overly expressive spazzy stuff is it's an archetype that I've just seen done more interestingly before. She does bring a lot of heart to it, and I do appreciate that. And it was weird. I watched Layer Cake for the first time last week, and it was really bizarre seeing her in Shape of Water and then seeing her as this weird British gangster. That was, yes, Sally Hawkins is an interesting actor, but it's not my favorite performance of hers. And there's something about it that I like it. I don't love it. I think she's better than the movie she's in, but still not in consideration even for me.
Yeah, I like the movie too. I think the fish sex thing is a real just cheap dig at it. I think it's ruined the movie. That's all everybody thinks about this movie. It's a good movie. I went through. I had a list of the movies of the decade. And I was going through and I thought about her. I'm like, yeah, she was pretty good at it, but I never really considered her. I probably should have given Lucas I probably should give Jenkins a little more consideration, which I didn't, which was an oversight. But yeah, this is. At 2, that's high. If this would have been a bottom 3.
So was Koho when he made the list. So.
But this isn't what I really give a lot of thought to.
Okay. I think that's it. Lucas, go to your 2.
All right, so my number 2 is Casey Affleck in Manchester by the Sea. I know there's a lot of people who, going back to that year, had trouble getting past outside allegations and actions by this actor, which, I completely acknowledge and I get. For me, if you watch this movie, and I think there's a special part of it, is just I am a New England guy. My family's from New England. I lived my entire life there. This movie is just filled with people who are New England archetypes. and I'm just watching. I think Casey Affleck is brilliant in this movie. I think he deserved the Oscar. I think it's the best actor performance of the decade. I just think something terrible happens, and you just watch him hold his grief and his pain inside, and it's just below the surface, but you can't let it out because that's not what you do. And then you have the flashbacks, and you watch the scene in the police station, and you watch it just boil over. And I also think he's losing it. He's sad. He's depressed, but he's like tender and caring, and he's trying his best to be a father figure for his nephew, but he doesn't know how to do it. And I just think this is a truly amazing performance. It's subtle. It's quiet in a lot of moments, especially when a lot of Best Actor wins are for really loud performances. I think he's just a New England guy trying his best to live with a terrible hand of cards he's been dealt. And it's just every scene is him trying to figure out a way to keep going when the weight of the world is just trying to crush him into the ground. And really, he should quit, but he has to keep going. And you just see the pain. It's everywhere. And you just watch him keep fighting over and over again. I'm going to stop talking. I love this performance so much. I will watch this movie any day of the week. I know that's a weird rewatchable pick. I love this movie so much. Yeah, it's just amazing.
Hey, Depression by the Sea is not a bad movie. I call it that, and that's not a dig at it. That's just the facts of life. It's a person really going through so much turmoil, which is completely warranted throughout this film. It's very upsetting. It's unsettling at times. I remember watching it for the Oscar season. It wasn't my favorite performance of that year, but you can't deny how great of a performance he honestly gives. I personally love the movie. It probably would have made my personal top 10 list, but I completely understand it, especially what part of the country you're from. And that the amount of you can pick out. Well, I know a guy like that, and I definitely know somebody like that, and I literally stood behind that guy at the grocery store. Like, I get that stuff, so that makes sense to me. I'm gonna go to Koho first because I know how he feels about this movie, and I just want to get it. I want to start the Lucas Koho fight right now. So, what do you feel about this movie, Koho? You love this movie, right?
You're gonna give me shit for Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water when you got motherfucking Casey Affleck at number 2 for Depression by the Sea, one of the most overrated movies of the decade? Sure. No, okay. All right. I get it. It's got Lucas Hedges and it's your Fargo. Sure.
Why is the performance bad? Go. That's what we're talking about here, not the movie.
It's completely fine. Michelle Williams is better, and I would have taken
No, come on.
Michelle Williams has limited screen time, and she's better than Casey Affleck's entire career.
It's fucking Star Trek.
Casey Affleck is not good in anything ever, except for the Ocean's trilogy, when he can just sleep.
Wow!
I think Casey Affleck is pretty bad, and this is just a time where he's decent. And they give him an Oscar for him being decent.
I'm the hot takes guy. Somehow.
So,
explain that to me.
Just anyone who used that explain, go look at Kirk's review of Days of Confused on Letterboxd. I personally really like this performance a lot. I'm a big fan of the Casey Affleck David Lowery collaborations from this decade. I think that Ain't Them Body Saints is like a really underratedly incredible movie with 2 lead performances that are just amazing. This is a really great performance. It's a little too inert for me. There's something that you don't. Again, it's a similar thing where I feel like you don't get to crack Lee in the way that I would have liked to get into. I do think Hedges is also pretty amazing in this movie. It's just there's a little something that keeps it more in the teens and not in the top 10 for me in terms of best performances this decade. But he's a great in the movie.
I have not seen Manchester by the Sea yet. It's a movie I gotta get myself in the right headspace, and I just haven't gotten there yet. So that's one I have not watched, so I cannot comment.
I'm more interested about your Dazed and Confused pick right now. But we'll move along. Kirk, what is your 2?
My number 2 was Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln. This is a movie. I think it's very difficult to take a historical figure, somebody especially that we have no historical reference to, no actual visual audio knowledge previous, and make it a real person, bring humanity to that role. And he did that with this. And I know a lot of people say, well, it's just makeup and all that. And, I think it's looked at as kind of an overrated performance now. But if you go back and watch that movie, he's so good in it. I mean, he makes Lincoln a real guy. He made me sad. When have you ever really been sad that Lincoln got assassinated? Like, I was sad when Lincoln.
What kind of American are you? All the time.
But never like it's like never hurt me. Like, oh man, he was like the person, the guy's dead. That's what made me sad. And just like when he's when he's fighting with his wife, and when he's in the cabinet meeting, he's yelling at the guys, and when he's dealing with his kids. Just so, and then, when he tells a story about the George Washington picture in the bathroom. Just so many great moments in this. I just love watching this. I love watching it in the movie. It's definitely my favorite his of the decade, and maybe my favorite his. One of my favorite his.
Top two for sure of DD of this decade.
Definitely. Yeah. So I just love this performance so much, and it's my number 2.
Okay, so this movie should not be called Lincoln. This should be called the 13th Amendment.
You're not wrong.
That's a documentary. That's a documentary.
Okay, fair. Okay, but I'm saying like it should the movie's not about Lincoln. The movie is about him passing literally the abolishment of slavery. And that's fine. I think the movie is okay. The movie I do not like as much. It's sad when National Treasure 2. Book of Secrets does a better Lincoln assassination than this movie. It's a very shoehorned in at the end. It's very put together because, well, what happens to Lincoln? He gets assassinated, so we have to mention that in this movie. Like, it's very shoehorned in at the end. His performance is great because Daniel Day-Lewis is great. I think he, just how he changed it. Like, he's an amazing actor. There's no question about it. He's going to do well in this movie. I would pick it over Phantom Thread because I find Phantom Thread very boring. So, but Lincoln, I think Lincoln's a fine performance. I don't think it's a great movie. So, okay. So everybody else had Daniel Day-Lewis. Did we already talk about Daniel Day-Lewis and the other one? Okay, all right. So let's go to Daniel Day-Lewis with Phantom Thread, Lucas, and it's just Lucas. It's just Lucas. I'm sorry. Lucas, tell us why, personally, he's better than in Phantom Thread than Lincoln, and then I'm going to have Kirk tell you. Oh, he hasn't seen Phantom Thread, so this is not going to work the way I want it to. So cool. Go.
I mean, so both performances are really good. When I was sitting down to do my list, it also comes down to the movie in some ways. I feel like Phantom Thread is just a significantly better movie. So I also just find I find like the original performance to be a little bit more interesting. With Reynolds, Daniel Day-Lewis had to sit down and create this entire character. He didn't have anything. He didn't have a look. There wasn't an expectation. He had to build a character from scratch. And I think I've done a lot of reading about Daniel Day-Lewis, and he has this really interesting thing where he builds all of his characters around the posture of his palate. So the way his vocal intonation, he builds characters around the voices, and Reynolds is just another example of this. He does this in his other movies as well. And I just think he's a fascinating character. I never thought I was going to watch a movie about fashion and be that interested. I think he's just this brilliant, crazy genius. He has all these weird quirks. You're buttering bread too loud. You're buttering the bread too loud. There's just all this weird, interesting things. And then to find a character who's so in his own head and so narcissistic, but loves the fact that he is getting controlled and then coerced by this woman that he goes from thinking of as inferior to sort of falling for in this weird, twisted, bizarre romance. I just think it's a fantastic performance, and Daniel Day-Lewis is best of the decade.
I'll say that I'd argue that he had to build a character for Lincoln as well. I'm
not saying he didn't have to. I'm saying he had more there to begin with. Reynolds was nothing. Reynolds was words on a paper and a name, and then he had to build that character.
Paul,
I think you could almost argue that it's harder though when you're playing against people's expectations, just because everybody already has their idea of what they want Lincoln to be. So I think in that respect, playing real people is sometimes more challenging than we give credit for, especially when, again, we don't have a reference point for them. I think that these are both amazing performances. It's, DDL is kind of undeniable. And I think the Lincoln performance is a little underrated almost in a weird way, just because everyone's like, yeah, it's just classic. Yeah, he's just playing Lincoln, blah, blah, blah. But I think he brings such a power to Abraham Lincoln. And like every time he's on screen, like he is the thing you're glued to. I can't wait for Koho's Neg, where he's like, oh, this random supporting character is actually better than the lead. But I do think that both of these are great and worthwhile performances. Just, again, I knew that both of them, or that DDL would be mentioned at some point, so I figured I would give some shine to something a little different.
Koho, Lincoln or Phantom Thread?
Lincoln all day. Lincoln all day. But both are not movies that I want to go back to. Not anything against Lincoln. It's just I found Lincoln to be kind of a slog. I think DDL is great. I've only ever seen the movie once. Maybe I should give it a second try. That's why DDL didn't make it for Lincoln. But if I was going to put him on here for one of them, I would have picked Lincoln. And I love Paul's whole his salty. He's going to pick a supporting. Now you left off like the 10 best performances of the decade, so you could talk about like your 12 through 13. Good job.
And I just want to.
Okay, Emma Stone.
I'm going to give JTH a shout out in the chat. I don't know if anybody else is going to understand that comment besides me. But that's brilliant. That's a great comment, JTH.
The Star Trek one?
Yeah.
Well, let me also still National Treasure 2. That's a way better Lincoln assassination.
I actually stand with Cody on that opinion.
Stand by it. And the Gates did nothing wrong. Okay. It's proven in that movie. We're going to ones now, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And I rewatched this performance yesterday to confirm that I do, in fact, think it is the great screen performance of the decade. There was no, wussing around about, what do I want to highlight and blah, blah, blah. I think that Michael Fassbender in Shame is the great screen performance of the 2010s. He's just this man that eats himself alive from the inside out. And there's so many things that it's so obvious he wants to be able to relate to people, but he just can't, because he has such this powerful addiction to just having sex with anything in eyesight. And man, there's such a power in every look that he does. You can tell that even when he's in public trying to be natural, there's an uncanniness. He almost stands out just because he's kind of blending in. You can tell he's playing the part, but there's a part of him that's bubbling right there on the surface that just wants to explode. No pun intended. Yikes. But I think Fassbender is like one of the great actors alive. I wish he would make better choices with his movies, but Shame is such a deep spiraling dive into someone who, again, cannot control impulses and is just totally at the behest of their id, and that's all that he's acting on is pure instinct, and he doesn't consider what is best for him or his family or his surroundings, and it's so hard to watch, but you can't take your eyes off of him at any moment. He's just, man, he's so powerful. His screen presence is unparalleled, I think. Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think Shame is honestly one of his better performances. It's a very uncomfortable to watch. I will stand by that. I'm surprised this is the first time he was mentioned on the list, because I know how somebody feels about another one of his performances. So I'm interested to find out. But yeah, this movie has. I want to go back and rewatch this, but I don't know if I want to fully, because of how it made me feel the first time. Like I kind of liked leaving it there, but I think it's a fantastic performance. I think he is honestly one of the best actors working today. He just doesn't make the best choices. I think he just likes to buy things secretly, so he has to do big budget movies at times to pay for those things. But yeah, Shame, I fully stand by you on that. Number one. Maybe not would be my number one, but he would definitely be on my list with some capacity. Curious, Koho, no Steve Jobs is on here.
Yeah.
And I know how you feel about Steve Jobs.
I made the conscious choice to leave it off because I have already talked about it a lot in the last couple episodes. I did. I left off because I talked about it a lot last
we
couple
still
of
got La La Land and Land.
Oh my
because I
man.
was going to put Emma Stone on for Birdman, and I ended up leaving La La Land instead because I figured better performance. Anyway, but I love Fassbender as Steve Jobs. I made the decision to leave him off. I still haven't seen Shame, so Shame could replace Steve Jobs as my favorite Fassbender performance or the best one once I've seen it. But for me, Steve Jobs holds the top Fassbender spot, and it would normally be on this list.
I try to remember. I don't think I've seen Shame. Let me ask this, Paul. Better performance or worse performance than Hunger?
I think this is better.
Is it? Okay, well, I'll have to go back and check that out then.
I think that a lot of that is the interplay he has with Carey Mulligan. I think that is what sort of enhances the strength of his performance.
I'll definitely go back and check that out. I mean, you can't go wrong with Fassbender. He's amazing. For this decade, I would have gone, personally, I loved him in Frank. I think that's a great performance, even though you barely see his face the whole movie. And also, his version of Macbeth was really great. So those are the two stand-up performances for Fassbender for me for the decade.
Oof, Lucas's face when you said that version of Macbeth. That's great.
So this was a performance I considered. I think it's kind of fascinating, especially if you think about it in the context of American cinema, in that it's a very sexualized movie. But typically when Americans make sexualized films and films with nudity and a lot of sex scenes, it's about how awesome it is for that character to have sex. Look at how much fun they're having.
It's a Brit, not an American, to be fair.
No, that's fair. But it still comes out in the American system. I wouldn't consider it like a completely British film. And you just watch this movie where they take it and they kind of turn it on the head, and he's doing all the things you would see in a movie that would be glorifying this behavior or applauding him for his, his aura or his sexuality. But it's really this movie about a guy who is just getting destroyed by this inability to stop himself. He can't stop, and he just has to keep going. And you just watch it destroy his life. And Fassbender is fantastic. And the relationship with Carey Mulligan, as you said, is just it's really tough to watch him try to hide it and hide the problem he has when she's around until she finally releases it.
Okay, Koho, what's your number one of the decade?
My number one, if you're keeping track of Yikeses, is Leonardo DiCaprio and Django Unchained. I love the movie, and I think the movie completely lights up to 11 when Leo shows up. He's magnetic. Like, the movie's great before, but it gets even better when Leo shows up, because Leo being that villain, that charismatic, draw you in and then destroy you once you get inside character is incredible. I think the storied he broke the glass and hurt himself and kept acting is like a given. Like, that's, he's a great actor. We knew that. But like, I think it's the way that he sort of toys with the people that he's interacting with. Like, that he's sitting here just looking at them like they're lunch. And he just interacts with them in such a scary way that every time you watch it, it's you don't like what you're seeing, but you can't look away, sort of thing. I think Leo is incredible, especially in Django. Should have went for this.
Okay, who? Wolf of Wall Street, and who else?
I had Django at number 4. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is probably my favorite villain of the decade, and he does such a great job, like. Humanizing is the wrong word, and that's not what I mean. He doesn't humanize him, but he makes it. He shows
grounds him.
Yeah. And he shows you like kind of behind the curtain, like it's like the anti-Gone with the Wind, where you see just how really they're putting all these gentlemanly airs on, but how pathetic these guys really are. He carries that out like he did the whole Francophile thing, and it's all just posturing and posing. And there's really nothing to this guy. He's just like a no good hick. And speaking of Fassbender, I kind of compare it to Fassbender in 12 Years a Slave, which is another role I could consider for this list. How you just see how sad and pathetic these people are, and Leo just carries that. He has that charm and he has that energy, but you see what's laying beneath it. It's just so shallow and it's so nothing. And he pulls that off so well, and that's what I love about him in this movie. So yeah, like I said, my favorite villain of the 2010s probably.
Lucas, you picked Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, so Wolf of Wall Street was my 6th, and I'm a little bit shocked right now because I don't genuinely understand how you pick Django over Wolf of Wall Street. I think he's really good in Django, but he's such a small part of that movie. Wolf of Wall Street is the Leo movie. He has to carry basically every scene in that. He's got the crazy physical acting when he's trying to get into his car on Quaaludes. He's got all these crazy speeches. He's got weird dance sequences. He has to be this character who's doing absolutely terrible things, but living this lifestyle that is almost alluring. And then you have to watch his life fall apart and him start to realize that he has all these problems, but at the same time, he can't stop. I think it's the best performance he's ever done. I think it's a crime almost that he did not win the Oscar for this. And the fact I think that we got The Revenant, which is a lesser performance that he had to get the Oscar for because he didn't get it for this movie. I think Leo in Wolf of Wall Street is by far his best performance of the decade. And I respect to those guys. I don't understand how you pick Django over Wolf of Wall Street.
I'd say to be fair, I think Wolf of Wall Street is. He has a lot. He has Jonah Hill, Margot Robbie, John Barenthal. He has a lot of people around him helping him out there. So it's not. He is the focus. Obviously,
supporting actor when in Django Unchained, it's not exactly a movie with nobody.
Yeah, I'm not saying no. I'm saying he's. But he's when he Koho said when he shows up, that whole movie changes. It becomes a different movie when he's on screen. And I'm not downplaying. He was great in Wolf of Wall Street. I think we all agree he didn't get the Oscar for the right movie, whether it was your pick or my pick. It wasn't The Revenant that he should have won for.
No.
I'm not saying that Wolf of Wall Street's a bad pick. I just like them better in Django.
I would also say that Wolf of Wall Street. I'm gonna borrow the terminology that Chance made. I've kind of seen DiCaprio do shades of that character in different movies. Not that exact performance, but sort of like pieces of that combined performance in Aviator and in earlier performances of his career. But in Django, he isn't the lead. He's not the focus. He's not the person that has to carry the movie. And he's also doing something I haven't really seen him do where he's the batshit crazy bad guy. I've never really seen him be genuinely an evil person before. So
I think I have two sort of things. One, I think he's not the lead in Django, but I do think all the moments with him are structured around his character. So I don't think it's necessarily him coming out of nowhere. I think the scenes are created to make Calvin Candy the centerpiece of the scene. I do think also let's talk about how him winning the Oscar, his Oscar for The Revenant. It's not the best. It's not best performance by an actor in their career. It's the best performance in that year. And I think that Leo in The Revenant is just about as good as I think Fassbender and Steve Jobs is about equal to that. But I think that performance, it's about that year. It's not about his career. And I think that's sort of a misnomer there. If I was going to have a Leo performance in here, honestly, it would probably have either been Wolf of Wall Street or Cody, You Can Cover Your Ears, or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think those are his two great performances of the 2010s. That I think that's a weirdly underrated performance. But anyway, that's just a quick personal thing. But yeah, I think Leo's an amazing actor. I finally watched Wolf of Wall Street after not seeing it for my entire life, a few months ago. And he's phenomenal in it. I just think he's great in Django and not on the level, I think, of Wolf.
I'm going last on this is disrespectful for one. Paul, how dare you? Two, then you also bring up Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. How dare you? Here's where it kind of breaks down. One, Koho, you lost your entire argument when you brought up Chance Ellison. Everybody knows Chance hates Leo because he's an idiot. Okay, let's be real. Chance is an idiot. What's Leo take? We all get it.
That's very fair.
I don't know if he was a kid in school reminded him of Leo and he stole his lunch and pushed him down the hallway or ripped his leather jacket. I don't know, but listen, Leo didn't do anything to you. He's a lot better actor than the people you like. Two, I would have put Wolf of Wall Street over Calvin Candy if I'm picking from the 2010s, personally, because I think Calvin Candy does great things. His hand bleeds. Those stuff's cool. Help you, Ryan Permison, kind of have ruined this character for me. Because if I ever have to see the gif of You had my curiosity. Now you have my attention. Like, I hate that. I hate that with a passion at this point. I just think Calvin Candy is that evil in that movie that like drives the film, but like the arc that he plays in Wolf of Wall Street is so complex, and I don't think how you use the Aviator as a film is kind of silly because it's not even close to what he does in that movie. Like Jordan Belfort is from the start, the movie's about excess, and like that's literally he is constantly, and that crawl to his Lamborghini is literally one of the most like frustrating moments for him ever. Like, just like, dude, like he's strong. Like you could just see the acting performance. So I absolutely love that performance.
He's underratedly funny in that movie. Like that movie's
he's
hilarious. Also,
100%.
Cole, can you just put up Barr's comment about Matthew McConaughey real quick? No, he is not. No,
he's not.
That is honestly one of the biggest best actor travesties of the last like 25 years. Like the Dallas Buyers Club, most obvious, played out. Terrible. Oh no, God, that movie's bad. That
Guys, he won the award.
Good.
He won the award because of the TV show. Let's be real.
Yeah. Just watch. I wish I could wash that movie out of my mouth.
Yeah.
It's just awful. Anyway,
thank you, Nazario.
and I think next.
Next up is Lucas. Yeah.
All right, so my number one is Isabelle Huppert in Paul Verhoeven's Elle from 2016. Quick poll: has anyone here besides me seen this movie?
I have not.
Nope.
So Paul has. Okay, good. I'm not going to give away too much. Isabelle Huppert plays a video game executive who is raped at the beginning of the film, and the movie follows her as she goes after her assailant and attempts to gain justice. It's a really weird and twisted film that gets critiqued a lot, but I think she's kind of brilliant in it, and she's one of the best actresses ever. So a performance that I didn't really know much about her before I saw this movie. I kind of just randomly picked this up, and it's amazing. Brian Michaels, go fuck yourself.
Does that mean we can start spoiling Rise of Skywalker now? Because no one cares about that movie either, Brian.
Well, no, we don't need to. We're not spending airspace on that. Cody, Lucas just did his number one.
I didn't see it. I couldn't find it.
All right, Paul, talk.
Paul,
I mean, it's great performance, very similar to the Mickelson one. It's her fear, I think, is one of the most impressive parts of this performance. Is you expect this to just be fury, her trying to get justice, and I think how it vacillates between her being scared and her being angry is amazing. So it's great.
Yes, Nazario. Facts.
What did you tell
Nazario,
Brian?
true or false, Nazario? That movie is in French. That's a Nazario question.
Why did you tell Brian to go fuck himself? Like I'm
He
curious.
told me nobody cares about this movie, so that will do.
Oh, okay.
I thought, honestly, his response is pretty hilarious. Brian's response.
Yeah.
This movie is in French.
All right, Kirk.
My number one. I wanted to try and find something kind of original, do something like Lucas did, something out of the box. But I ended up. There's one performance I just kept going back to, and it was J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. This performance, this whole movie, but his performance in particular, just was so. He's so swarmy and so charismatic. He's like the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Like he sucks you and he tempts you and he just whispers in your ear, and he tells you like he's wrong, but he's not, and he's doing these horrible things and he's selling you on it. And by the end, you're like, yeah, maybe he's right, and you know what? Maybe he is right. I don't know. And he just plays that so well. That scene in the in the club where he's talking about the two worst words in the English language. It's like, yeah, he's there's something to that, but this philosophy drove somebody to kill themselves, and you feel gross watching it. You feel gross at the end because like, oh, he did it. It was all worth it, or was it? And you don't know. And I mean, to this day, I think about that movie, and I'm not sure how to feel. And it's all that is centered around that performance. and what he did in that movie, and he's just so beautifully gross, that character, and I love it so much. And yeah, like I said, there wasn't any other performance. I said Kelvin Candy 2 seconds ago is my favorite villain of the year, of the 2010s. No, it's this guy. Again, there's no other number one I could put on this list other than this performance. So great.
Yeah, this is my 4. I think he's fantastic. That movie lives and dies on J.K. Simmons for me. If J.K. Simmons isn't that good, that movie's still a good movie, but it's not the best version of that movie that it can be without him.
Mm-hmm.
I think J.K. Simmons' character, you kind of touched on it. The thing about him that's terrible and kind of scary is that he's not really wrong,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense where he's like the most harmful thing that you could say to someone is good job, because it kind of makes you complacent. But like that philosophy is not bad, is not like wrong, but it's also not totally right. And like that movie kind of walks that line. And like he's really great. Like the best part of the movie for me is at the end when he just totally fucks over Miles Teller, but then
Mm-hmm.
kind of connects with him again towards the end, and how music is sort of the bond between them and always will be. And I think he's phenomenal, deserve that Oscar.
Absolutely.
You're the only two. Okay.
Yeah.
JK has done this performance before this film. He was in a TV show called Oz on HBO.
We are farmers. Bump, 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 bump.
He is literally this character in Oz. Through and through, he's that evil, sadistic asshole. I think he gets a lot of credit for that scene. I think, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's bad in this movie or anything. I think he's amazing. But like that scene is the scene that defines him at this point in his career. Like, am I dragging or rushing? Like, it's a great scene. I love it. It's not my favorite movie of the decade. I know it won on the cool guy, whatever. Like, that's fine. Like, it's a fantastic movie in its regards, but it's just not one. I think the movie does live in. I think Miles Teller is great. I think it lives and dies on both those performances in the case that drives that film, and he gives us excellent performance that he's been playing for a long time at this point. So, give him the Oscar what he deserves. I'm so not surprised that it wasn't on Lucas and Paul's chat because one, it probably was going to be brought up, and two, like, you knew with Koho, you knew that the people that it's going to be a brought up movie. So not saying you don't like it, but you would put more attention on the other ones. So yes, do you like this movie? I figure you do, but why did JK miss your list?
I love this movie. To make a weird comparison, his character kind of reminds me of Dickie Greenleaf in Talented Mr. Ripley, where it's like you so desperately want him to like you, and those moments where he does give you that attention are so gratifying. You know, the small moments where he gives a little smile at Miles Teller and he sort of congratulates him. That it feels so good that you just chase that emotion the entire time. You want to impress him so badly. He is a super captivating and a magnetic performance. I guess it's just a little like the character is designed this way, but it doesn't have enough levels for me. It was a little too straightforward. It's again amazing performance. But when you're separating the 10 best performances of the decade, it's just missed the cut by a sliver for me.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. It's a really good performance. It was definitely close into consideration. I do agree with Paul that if there is a critique to make is that he's just kind of loud and angry all the time. It's just intense. I think he doesn't have a lot of yet. It would have been interesting almost to see like maybe a little more of him. And I think people also don't give Teller enough credit. I think arguably Teller is one of the most underrated actors because no one gives him credit for how good he is in movies, and it's always about Simmons, and he's really good himself, and that movie doesn't work without him. So I think it's not all JK. Really good performance, close to my list, just didn't make it.
Okay. Yeah, we made it. I think we're done, right? We're done. We have wrapped. We are at our limit. Here is your guys' combined list for the show. Again, this how it determines we add up all the people's places. We put them in the order. So 10 is Rosamund Pike for Gone Girl. Number 9 is Philip Seymour Hoffman for The Master. Number 8 for whatever. 7 Fassbender.
Yeah, the guy directed RoboCop. It's not like it's this crazy obscure person nobody's heard of.
She got nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's bad. I just Phantom Thread shows up. Oh, is it going to show up? Go with Saoirse Ronan for Lady. 4 is Daniel Day-Lewis. We chose Lincoln. Adam Driver for Marriage Story. J.K. Simmons for Whiplash. And your number 1 is Leo. And Django is going to be selected because 2 people put it on there. The grades for everybody's list. Tie for first place, I think. It's Paul and actually Kaleb. I leaned a little bit closer to them with B's. This is actually a tight list. No one really had the worst list ever. It just sucks when the top 3 is something I haven't seen, so obviously that puts the grade a little bit down. Third is Kirk. He gets a C. I think that was a C+. Maybe I screwed up. And then 4 is Lucas. He gets a C. Yes, C+ for Kirk. C for there. It's slightly garbage, but I wouldn't say it's garbage. After I watch those 2 films, you're probably going to be right at the end of the day because you're right about the Daniel. So I couldn't agree more with that one.
Is this Koho's first place finish?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
I went musicals.
Oh, okay.
Villains, I think he
loses the tiebreaker
Yeah,
because
villains.
he should lose the tiebreaker because he admitted that he literally forgot a movie that should have been on this list. So
Listen. You have more belts than me. Go away.
Call it B, and then Caleb was underneath it. So next week is going to be biggest 2020 Oscar surprises. We're still trying to kind of iron how that looks, but like what should have been nominated, where it ranks in your list, your top 10 of what the next thing on.
You should almost put snub/surprises, things that you think should have been nominated, things you're surprised got nominated, things like that.
Sure. If you have any, so do it snubs/surprises. So put it on there. So like somebody not Greta Gerwig not being nominated for director can be wherever you think that ranks in your top 10 list. Again, if the topic doesn't do well with the list, we will rip it off. The next one is worst on-screen chemistry. So I'm really excited about that one.
do Dom Rizzi and Dustin Mason in Movie Warzone together count?
I vote
don't you forget about
that's
that.
everyone's number 1. Just saying.
824, it's probably going to be a pre-recorded episode just with Paul's schedule. And if Paul wants to be on the panel and we want to find a different host, that's all within Paul and everybody.
I'd love to host personally, just because I've given lots of 824 takes otherwise.
So if Paul wants to host, then that will be it. So please send your list to Koho. He will, don't bombard Paul with all your lists unless he wants that. And then we'll figure that out. And then February 26th is Overrated Classics with Boatman. We wanted to do best, but that was going to be subjective. And then worst, that's also. So overrated is a better topic with classics. So send your list to Kaleb, and then they will let you know if you made the list. That's it pretty much for the show. Again, not the worst episode that we've ever done. I'm glad we finally got Lucas on the call. So, all right, everybody, have a good night.
Keep sucking.